Good afternoon. The purpose of this video is to show the regular testing of a fire panel to the ASC and to the monitoring centre. If it's a fire panel, it's usually a monthly test. If it's a sprinkler system, it's a weekly test. In this case, it's a monthly test, and this is a typical installation of a fire panel with an ASC. The ASC may be located internally on the fire panel, it may be located externally, depending on the available space. The next point is to locate the logbook, because the logbook has to be filled out when you've done your testing. In this case, the logbook is sitting on top of the adjacent fire panel, which is a gas detection system. Now we open the panel and you'll notice that the ASC in this case is located internally. The ASC may be located externally, and that can either be on the top or either side, or possibly on the bottom. Now, take your USB key and insert your USB key into the USB slot on the bottom left hand side of the ASC. You'll notice that the ASC, at this point, the input light lights up, and as you can see, input 1 LED has come up. If you have more than one input, it will actually step between the various inputs. Now you need to select your mode. So you would press the mode button so that the input LED is flashing. Now you can select either test mode or isolate mode. In this case we need test mode. The test LED starts to flash. When the test LED goes solid, that indicates that the monitoring station has acknowledged that you've requested test, and the system is now capable of taking a test. Before we can commence our testing, we have to ensure that A, we don't trigger the building evacuation system, the external bells, or shut down any essential plant. So we would go to external bell isolate, which then displays an isolate on the panel there and indicates here that the external bells have been isolated. Then we go warning system isolate, and you'll notice that the warning system isolate has come up as well. And now, to avoid, in this case, tripping air conditioning, we will isolate what they call the auxiliary. So we go ACF isolate. Now we have the bells isolated, the warning system isolated, and the air conditioning shutdown trip isolated. Now, if we look at the ASC, you will notice that the ASC is displaying an isolate. This is to indicate that we have isolated items on the panel preparatory to testing. Now, having seen that we've got everything correctly isolated, we can now do our test. So in this case we're going to test zone 1, which is smoke detectors in the plant room. Alarm test 1, enter. You will notice now that we have an alarm LED displayed against that particular zone, and the panel waits a few seconds just in case there was a momentary trip. Now it's in telling us the bells have been activated, the warning system has been activated, and the air conditioning shutdown has been activated. The reason that you don't hear them now is because we've isolated them to prevent disruptions to the client. You'll notice that the alarm LED is flashing and the panel is beeping. We can press the acknowledge button to silence the beep, and this LED now goes back to solid. Now we would look at the ASE to check that the alarm has been received by the ASE. So coming down to the ASE, you'll notice that the alarm LED is showing solid, which indicates that the panel has an alarm on it and the alarm has been acknowledged by the monitoring centre. Now we will come back up because we have to restore this alarm that we've generated in order to clear off the alarm and our isolates. So we go reset 1, enter. You'll notice that the alarm on the plant room has cleared, and also the activations on the bells, the warning system, the air conditioning trip have deactivated. However, notice that it is still isolated. When you go back down to the ASE now, you will notice that the alarm LED is rapid flashing. And this indicates that the test was successful and the monitoring centre has acknowledged the test and its restoral. If this LED is flashing slowly, it indicates that the monitoring centre has not yet fully acknowledged the test, and you need to wait until the LED is rapid flashing before doing anything else. Now, as you can see, the alarm LED is still flashing on the ASE, and it is flashing in an acknowledged state. So now we can remove the isolates from the panel, and we will do these in sequence. We remove the ACF isolate, which is the air conditioning trip, and you'll see the isolate has cleared. We now do the warning system isolate, and you'll see it has cleared. We now do the external bell isolate. These isolates have cleared. The isolate is cleared from here, and now when we go down to the ASE, you will notice that the isolate LED is now rapid flashing in sequence with the alarm LED, which indicates that the isolates have been successfully acknowledged as having restored from the monitoring centre. Okay, having checked that we don't have any alarms left on the panel, you can now come down to the ASE, and you will notice that the isolate LED is now rapid flashing in sequence with the alarm LED. This indicates that the isolates that you had on the panel have been removed and have been acknowledged by the monitoring station, and therefore now it is safe to take the ASE out of test mode. To take the ASE out of test mode, press the input button once, then press the mode button, and it will step to isolate mode, then step and it shows nothing. When it shows nothing and only the input one LED is lit, you may then remove the key, and you will notice that the input LED now goes out. You should have, at the end of a successful test, you should have the radio link LED solid, the phone line LED solid, and the power LED solid. And assuming there were no faults on the panel before you started, the rest of it should be blank. Now you can close the panel. You would fill out the logbook to state the date, the tester's name, and that you have completed a test and what you have tested and whether it passed or failed, and if there were any other problems that you noted. At that point, the test on this particular site is complete and you can proceed to the next testing point.